I went from working in a high-paying six-figure job that left me feeling unfulfilled to taking an 84% pay cut to do something that I genuinely love. And ironically, that shift eventually led me to make even more money, but this time feeling a lot more fulfilled. And this journey all started with one change, and that is how I think about money and how it fits into my life. And so I thought, be interesting to make this video where I take you behind the scenes of that mindset shift. I show you how changing your relationship with money can eventually change everything. We're going to split the video into three parts. First, we're going to find your tipping point where we're going to understand the point where more money stops adding value to your life and starts taking away from it. Then we're going to go through something that I called the wealth paradox, which is why most people chase money endlessly, even when we know it's not the answer, and how to break free from that cycle. And the third thing we're going to go over is 3 actionable, evidence-based steps you can take to align your money with the life you actually want to live. Let's start with number 1, finding your tipping point. There's this really interesting study that looked at the relationship between money and happiness. Let's call up the experience of fulfillment and how much money we need to actually feel fulfilled. Spoiler alert, the journey is far from linear at first. More money does equal more fulfillment. When you're meeting your basic needs, food, shelter, safety, each extra pound or dollar makes a noticeable difference. It's like stepping out of survival mode and inner stability. And then as you move from the essentials to the niceties, things like a nicer home, better quality food, more convenient transportation, that positive relationship between money and fulfillment feels even stronger. You're building comfort and you're building security. But once you've achieved comfort and you start moving into the luxury territory, the relationship between money and fulfillment against a change, we hit what's known as a fulfillment ceiling. And beyond a certain point, more money and more possessions don't actually bring lasting happiness. In fact, they just bring clutter, both physically and mentally. The more stuff we accumulate, the less satisfaction we get from it. And actually, the fulfillment curve reaches a peak, and then it begins to decline during the stage you're spending more, you're accumulating more, but you're actually feeling less fulfilled. We all have a tipping point. It varies person by person. And there are some studies, including the Princeton study that was done in 2010, that suggested that this number could be around $75,000 a year. That's the point where for many people, more money doesn't necessarily equate to more happiness. I know for me, I found that real unfulfillment phase or that tipping point at a slightly higher level, but it was definitely below the six-figure mark. But ideally, you want to find what is your tipping point, because as soon as you find that tipping point and you feel that level of unfulfillment, that's when you want to change the way you use your money. But that's a lot easier said than done. Why? And to explain that, I'm going to move to part 2, the wealth paradox. Even though we know that there's this tipping point and we're aware of it, we're in an environment where more is always better, and the pursuit of more money almost feels like a requirement during our lifetime. And it's only really upon facing a life-changing event or death where we realize how insignificant this pursuit of money actually was throughout our lifetime. And I was recently rereading The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bonnie Ware. She was a nurse who spent years listening to people share their biggest regrets at the end of their lives. And the regret that was most common is, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. There were. Amongst other regrets, there was, I wish I hadn't worked so hard, and I wish I'd let myself be happier. And what's so striking, especially when rereading the book, is that none of these regrets were about money. Not one person said, I wish I earned more or I wish I bought more things. And it's very clear throughout most of our lives, we treat money like as the be-all and end-all. And yes, I can't deny money's importance. And if you watched my videos, and this isn't the first video that you're watching, then you probably think the same way. But beyond a certain level, the constant pursuit of it is actually a distraction from what actually matters. And this is one of those things that we know, in theory, is only truly understood by most people when there is a life-changing event or you're nearing the end of your life. But if you can actually realize this sooner, and I don't just mean a one-time realization, I mean a constant awareness where you're regularly checking in with yourself, reminding yourself that the pursuit of money for its own sake is actually a distraction, unless it's a byproduct or something that you genuinely enjoy or care about. The sooner you can understand that, the sooner you can move on to part 3, which is aligning your money decisions with your life goals. So how do you do that? First, define your vision and your financial path, i.e., the why behind your money. You need to get crystal clear about what you want out of your life, not just financially, but holistically. What experiences do you want? What relationships do you want to nurture? What purpose do you want to pursue? I knew that I didn't want to do a job that was unfulfilling forever. I wanted to do something meaningful, something I loved, something I gave back, and I could always get paid to do. As soon as I made that decision, every money decision that I did made, whether it was saving, spending, or earning, had to align with that vision. I designed my finances around that goal. If something didn't fit, I adapted it or I let it go. And that's alignment. Alignment is really hard to achieve and to do without having a financial plan. If you don't know whether you're in income surplus or deficit, what your cash flow looks like, or how much you need to save or invest to even reach your goals, then it's virtually impossible to then take control of your life. So the very first thing you need to do is become obsessed with personal finance. I've got a bunch of videos on this channel. I've also created a super comprehensive financial plan document. It's a 94-page document filled with how TOS, trackers, surveys, quizzes, calculators, and activities to help you build a life that actually feels true to you. It takes you through every part of your financial journey and is also a section where you can map out your goals short-term, medium-term, and long-term, and then map out the exact money steps you need to take to get there based on your money personality, your risk appetite, and your border. Life goals is everything. I do my finances to be able to get from where I was to where I want it to be, /plan. Moving on to the second strategy, spending money on experiences and growth. We know that spending on experiences tends to bring more lasting happiness than buying stuff. Experiences creates memories, they strengthen relationships, and they shape who you are. But an area that people forget to spend on, and arguably one of the most powerful forms of spending, is investing in yourself, your skills, your knowledge, your growth. When you spend money learning something new, whether it's cooking, coding, a creative hobby, you're not just buying knowledge, you're also building something that can generate more value in the future. And when your spending is aligned with growth, it feels less like a sacrifice and much more like an investment. It feels fulfilling because it's fueling something meaningful. And every time I felt like I've hit a curve or felt unfulfilled and I invest in some sort of learning will growth automatically, my fulfillment levels are, my overall happiness increases. And I know it's not a one spike thing, it's something that is going to last forever. And strategy number 3, reframe money through time. Final approach comes from reframing how we think about the relationship between time and money. There's this really powerful exercise from the book Your Money or Your Life, where you calculate your real hourly wage. So this isn't your salary divided by hours, it's your salary minus all work-related expenses. So commuting, any professional clothes that you wear, stress management divided by all the work-related hours. You're also including your commuting, your decompressing, and anything that you can allocate to work hours. When people do this exercise, they're often really surprised to find that their real hourly wage is much lower than they thought. And once you do that, you can start thinking about purchases in terms of life energy. So for instance, this new upgrade costs 40 hours of my life energy. Is it still worth it? When you start thinking of money in terms of time, rather than just abstract numbers, this automatically makes money less relevant because you're focusing on the truly finite resource, your time on this planet, and you start making your life decisions around that. I found this to be one of the most impactful ways to decide how I make my money decisions. If you got to this part of the video, thank you for watching, and I'd love to hear from you. What is one thing you're going to do as a result of watching this video? Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see that.